Hey there, Corwin Duncan with Sharper Mind Training, and today I'm going to talk about identity and how identity affects your performance and your reaction to stress. Before I jump into it, I'm going to say go ahead and like this video, subscribe to my channel if you're up for it, and go ahead and click on the link below in the description to get my emails as well. If you want to, don't do anything you don't want to do. All right, so identity, performance, stress, how does it all come together? Well, identity is a really interesting one, and it affects so much of what we do. And what do I mean by identity? It's this idea of who do you think you are? If I think I am an athlete, I'm going to react to situations differently than if I think of myself as just a guy who happens to be doing sports right now, depending on what my view is of an athlete versus just some guy. In particular, in fencing, if your identity is based around being a champion, being a medalist, being somebody who's very good, that's going to affect you very differently than if your mindset or your identity is around being, for example, somebody who's resilient or somebody who is a good sport, right? So let's break these three examples down for a moment. Let's say I go to a fencing competition and my identity, who I think I am, is centered around being the best, or at least being very good, medaling in competitions, beating other fencers, not losing to people who I think of as not as good. And that's really how I see myself. Well, on the one hand, yeah, it might mean that I go and I try very hard, I prepare well, I get focused. But the flip side of that is if something starts to go wrong, if that identity that I have is I'm good starts to be challenged, I don't have a lot to fall back on. Oh no, I'm not winning this bout. Something's wrong with my identity, something's wrong with me. It's easy at that point for me to start to spiral mentally into more and more stress. I should be winning. Should. It's a bad word. And I'm not winning. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to address this. Let's take a second example. The example of my identity is built around being a good sport. Now, if I go to a competition, maybe I'm not going to be as focused on my performance, which, that could hurt me a little bit in some ways. But if I start to perform badly, if I start to lose to somebody who I don't want to lose to, or I think I'm more skilled than, it's not going to affect me as much. I'm not going to be happy. I'm not going to love it. But if my core focus is, hey, I'm here to be a good sport, then regardless of how well I'm doing, I'm going to have a sort of a deeper underlying driving force than just my performance or the outcome of the competition for me. So that will affect my behavior for sure, but it will also affect how it hits me mentally and the amount of stress I feel, right? Because a lot of that stress for the first person, it comes in the difference between how well I think I should be doing and how well I am doing. And that gap creates huge tension. For the second version of me, who's going focused on being a good sport, having good conduct, behaving in a way I'm proud of, my results might matter to me and I care about them. But there's less of a disconnect because I can keep my behavior in line with my values. Now let's say the third person, the third example. My identity is that I am resilient. That means if I do well, great, but if I do badly, that does not challenge my identity. If I do badly, that feeds into my identity because it allows me to practice saying, hey, I did bad. I'm going to come back stronger. I'm going to still stay here And however well or poorly I end up doing, I'm going to rest on the fact that I did my best. I tried. I was brave in the face of fear, and I rose to the challenge internally. Now, you might have a different definition for the identity of being a top athlete or a winner or a champion, or the identity of being, focused on sportsmanship or resilience. But that's how I think of it when I'm talking about this right now. And what I want this to do, rather than define one of those or another, is simply illustrate how our idea of ourselves and how we think of ourselves affects not only the actions that we take, but how the circumstances we're in affect us and how much stress we feel based on those circumstances. So, as you think about who you are, or encourage the fencer you support to, explore their own self-image, think a little bit about how that self-image will affect you or them in the future. That's about all I got for today. Thank you so much for watching. Again, if you feel like it, go ahead and subscribe or check out another video. Or don't do that. Take care.